all, this is Umesh, History Faculty at Manifest IAS, and this is the current JOTS initiative. And as part of this, we have started a series on World Heritage Sites, and we have already covered the World Heritage Sites of ancient and medieval India. Today, we are going to have a look at the modern sites which have been included as World Heritage Sites for their outstanding universal value. In our next videos, we are going to cover some of the natural heritage of India which has been recognized by UNESCO for its outstanding universal value. And when it comes to this particular video, we have to first have a short discussion on the relevance of this particular section for UPSC. If you have a look at the UPSC syllabus of paper 1, that is history section, there you can very clearly see that modern culture is part of the syllabus. So that is the reason why in modern culture particularly there are two sections which are important for us. One is modern paintings and the second one is modern architecture. The modern architecture section is definitely very important. UPSC is definitely one time or the other is going to pull out this kind of questions from to surprise the students. That is the reason why it is better for us to be careful. And the second aspect is that this particular section, the constructions during British colonial time, is something which has been included in your themes in Indian history part 3 textbook of 12th standard, which covers most of the architecture which was present during British period. That is the reason why this section is very important for us. And as part of this, first and foremost, we are going to have a look at which are the sites which have been included.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
First and foremost, the first one is Victoria Terminus or Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus in Bombay. The second one is in Bombay itself. You see the Victorian and Art Deco constructions which were part of 20th century Bombay British constructions. And the third section is the Chandigarh Capital Complex which has been built by Le Corbusier, and the fourth one is the churches and convents in Goa which are constructed by the Portuguese, which are very significant, and we are going to talk about them. They are very interesting too. And here in these four sections there is a good possibility for UPSC to ask a question on the architectural styles which have been followed here. And the fifth one is not of great significance. It is not very brilliant architecturally. So the mountain railways of India. This is the fifth section which we are going to have a look at. Okay, it is just important for preliminary, not for mains. So according to the needs of UPSC, we are going to cover these sections. The first and foremost, we are going to talk about the Victorian Gothic architecture which was present in India during the British rule. Particularly the Britishers at this point of time, they were influenced by the modern era Renaissance art in Europe. This Renaissance art, it had a greater emphasis on rationality. It had greater emphasis on geometrical forms. It had greater emphasis on good design structure. Okay, more open spaces. These kind of aspects are lurking at the back of the architect's head before designing the buildings. Then along with that, they also wanted to show the prestige of British power in India. All of these facets made the buildings very grand, and at the same time they brought in many European elements. The first and foremost, the first feature that we are going to talk about is in Victorian Gothic architecture is the ribbed vault. Okay, the ribbed vault is usually a elliptical roof which is present. I think we have discussed about the same thing during the Buddhist cave architectural style. Okay, I have shown you the ribbed vault too. So this kind of curved vault structure is present which is known as a ribbed vault structure. Then along with that, there are numerous pointed arches. I will show the building style for you. Okay, these are the pointed arches which are present here. Okay, this kind of pointed arch structures are present. Then along with that, if we have a look at the other features, it also contains flying buttresses. Let's suppose there is a tower in this fashion. Typically the buildings have these kind of large towers, and these towers, they are supported from the central building with the help of a structure which is known as buttress. Buttress is a supporting structure usually. I think you might have read in environment too about buttress roots. Buttress is something which provides anything support. So these towers are supported by these kind of flying buttresses because they don't touch the ground. That is the reason why they are called flying buttresses. Then the entire structure is covered with lots of windows, okay, which contains a stone design and traceries. Traceries and stone design is present. Then along with that, you see enormous amount of mirror work which is present, which is known as the tracery work. Okay, typically the window looks this way. Then on that there will be stone design. According to the stone design, the glass is fixed. The glass is fixed according to stone design. That is what it is. Then along with that, you see numerous bulbous domes too. Bulbous domes are also present. Then along with that, you can also see overhanging eaves. Okay, eaves are this kind of structures. See, let's suppose this is the building. Okay, these are the extensions on the sides which are known as overhanging eaves. I think we have talked about it already earlier in Rajasthani architecture. Then along with that, these buildings have a lot of open pavilions where people gather together. Okay, these kind of pavilions are also constructed. Then you see pierced arcaded structure. Pierced arcaded structure is a very typical feature of most of the medieval and modern buildings. This pierced arcade structure, it is very suitable for Indian conditions because of the hot conditions which prevail in India, wherein for a marketplace what they do is they construct these kind of, if you visit the Connaught Place in Delhi too, you can find these kind of structures. Okay, these kind of structures which are known as pierced arcades. Okay, here interiorly you have shops, and this is a colonnaded structure. Inside you can walk to. So this kind of structures are also present. Then domed chhatris are also placed. Okay, this kind of domed chhatris, pillared structure with a dome. All of these are the typical features. Along with this, they also employed new European capitals like Ionian capital, okay, Doric capital, okay, and Roman capitals. It means that capital is the top part of any pillar which connects the pillar to the main building. This capital is usually made in Ionian, Doric, or many other formats. So this way, many new architectural features were brought into India by the Britishers, and these elements were used to show the British grandeur, the imperial style it is also sometimes called. But they essentially brought a European conception of building into Indian setting. And the first and foremost building which has been recognized, which was of this pattern, which has been recognized, is the Victoria Terminus. We are going to talk about the Victoria Terminus, or Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, which is the headquarters of Central Railway in Mumbai even today. It is a functional building. Then the building has been designed by a person by the name of Frederick William Stevens, and it has been constructed between the period 1878 to 1888, and it has been dedicated to Queen Victoria. That's why its name was a Victoria Terminus. Then all the architectural features that we have just discussed, they are part of this building. The same things, pointed arches are there, hanging buttresses are there, towers are there, pierced arcades, everything, every aspect is present. And along with these aspects, there is unique integration with the Indian sculptural pattern in this building. Not just the sculptural pattern, even the chhatris are also integrated onto this building, which is typically a Gujarati and Rajasthani architectural feature. Along with the chhatris, numerous sculptures of Indian animals, Indian flora and fauna, and some of the capitals are also made of elephants and tigers, which are typical Indian animals. All of these features, they have been integrated into this building style. Then along with that, there have been plaques, the plaques of nearly 16 different castes which are present in Bombay at that point of time. They have been also integrated into this building. Then along with that, one more interesting feature of this building is on the top of the central dome there is the statue of Lady of Progress. Okay, Progress, the image of a Lady of Progress. Okay, allegorical figure of progress. This is a 14 feet tall figure which is holding a flame in its hand. It represents progress. It represents it represents the British mission in India of bringing about progress in India. That is how this thing has also been integrated. And there is one more interesting feature which is known as projecting gargoyles. Projecting gargoyles are some things which are usually on the edges of the building. These kind of images are placed. This is in Europe. These images, in case of India, what they did was they employed Indian images like wild dogs, crocodiles. These kind of images are integrated. Okay, sometimes they are functional too, like they are sometimes meant for rainwater, sometimes they don't serve any function, but just a decorative function they serve. So these kind of structures are also present. Okay, so when it comes to the British architecture during the British period, or any building for that matter during British period, you can include all these points without any doubt in the architectural style, because more or less all of the British constructions in India, they follow the same pattern. And sometimes they also, this building particularly, it has included a polychrome masonry and elaborate sculptural ornamentation, which are Indian elements in this building. That's how you have to answer this question. So you need to have a sample of what are the different features which are present, and you can use them in any building for that matter during British colonial period, and it symbolizes the British colonialism too at the same time. Then the next one we are going to talk about is the Victorian and Art Deco ensemble in Mumbai. Victorian and Art Deco ensemble in Mumbai. And when it comes to the Victorian construction style is more or less the same as we discussed now. But these buildings, they are present on one region which is known as Fort area of Mumbai, or the Oval Maidan, or Esplanade. So all of these they represent the same region. It is also known as Marine Drive. All of these aspects, they represent the same region where both Victorian and Art Deco buildings are present in Bombay. The Victorian buildings, most of them, they were constructed in 19th century, and in 20th century the Art Deco construction style has been employed by the Britishers. When it comes to the Victorian style, all the features are same. I will just show the buildings for you. One is Rajabai Clock Tower, which has been constructed. It is a classical Gothic tower. Okay, classical Gothic tower which has been constructed, which is known as Rajabai Clock Tower. Then along with that you have the Bombay High Court, which is a very famous building. Okay, this is the Bombay High Court. See, this is the Victorian Gothic architectural style, no element of Indian. Okay, the windows are present here with the traceries. Then pitched roofs. Okay, then this kind of this is also a pitched roof. All of these features are typical British Victorian construction styles. Then along with that, one more style buildings are also have been integrated into this Victorian and Art Deco ensemble of Mumbai. In Art Deco is a 20th century style. This 20th century style, it has been influenced by various styles. And one more thing is, Art Deco, it does not have a complete architectural features of its own. It's just like the Vesra architecture, when based on your need you take some elements from Nagara, some elements from Dravida. That is what the Vesra architecture has been. And Art Deco is similarly, it takes from various different inspirations without need for any fundamental integrity or unity of the building, based on the function and need, along with the desire for to being more aesthetically appealing. All of these features, they are integrated. Okay, and when it comes to this integration, they typically, when it comes to the Art Deco building, they are having a mixture of various styles, and usually they pick up the bold geometric forms of Cubism. Cubism is a very famous European painting movement. It has been started by a person by the name of Pablo Picasso, and in India too, M.F. Hussain, he has been the most prominent Cubist artist in India. This kind of bold geometric features from Cubism, they have been taken up. Then along with that, bright colors have been integrated in the interiors. Usually they are sometimes very well decorated. The interiors are very rich. In fact, they sometimes also employ some furniture features of pre-revolutionary France too. Then along with that, they freely take up the designs of China, Japan, India, Persia, Egypt and Mayan art too. See, consider the range from which they can pick up, and each structure is constructed in a different fashion. The most representative of this Art Deco building in India is the Eros Cinema in Bombay. Okay, this is the Eros Cinema, and this has taken, the exterior is a pagoda format, pagoda or stupa format. It is a mixture between pagoda and stupa format. Pagoda is a typically Southeast Asian feature, whereas a stupa is Indian feature. The exterior is made in this fashion. When you go into the interior, completely French, pre-revolutionary French design interiors are present in this Eros Cinema. This is a very famous building, and many of the private buildings are also constructed in this Art Deco format in 20th century. So that is the reason why in Bombay, both you can see a very clear distinction. Whenever you see a Gothic architectural building, it is 19th century. Art Deco building, it is 20th century. That is how you can see a clear transition from one style to another. The taste of the British has also shifted from one to another. The imperial style has been replaced by a mixed style. Okay, that is the reason why this is very, very important, and it has been integrated just in 2018. So that is the reason why this can be possibly a prelims question. Then along with that, if we have a look at the next important thing that we are going to talk about is, let's finish the British structures. Is the third one is the mountain railways. The mountain railways of India, not very prominent from Main's point of view, but here you have to just know which of the mountain railways in India have been declared as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There are many, nearly 6 to 7 mountain railways are present during the British period, and they had this need, or what they were aspiring to actually cut or lay railway lines in mountainous regions of India. That was a favorite aspiration of the Britishers. That is the reason why even in the most difficult terrain, what they did was they provided for railway access, and this railway access, it passes through very picturesque and beautiful Indian mountains. That is the reason why they have been integrated into the UNESCO World Heritage Series. And as part of this, if you have a look at, most of these railway lines are steam based railway lines even today, and they are present on narrow gauge, okay, not a broader gauge but narrow gauge, obviously because of the mountainous terrain. But the architectural features are not very important for us. Nearly 3 railways have been integrated, that is important for us: Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, then the second one is Nilgiri Mountain Railway, and the third one is Kalka Shimla Railway. All of them have been constructed in the 19th century, itself, and they represent a marvel of engineering, because it was very difficult to cut through these mountains. They had to employ numerous bridges. Along with the bridges, they also had to cut numerous caves in order to pass these trains. And one interesting features which I found is this rack railway system. Okay, only the Nilgiri mountain in India is having a rack railway system, wherein in this rack railway system, along with the tracks which are present, in the center of it there is a gear and pinion system. What they typically do is, in this gear and pinion system, let's suppose these are the 2 rails, in between there is a gear and pinion system. This pinion system is present on between, or the gear teeth are present here, and the gear is fixed into it. It will stop the train from slipping back on mountainous regions because it has a huge elevation. This gear and pinion system, which is known as a rack railway system, which is present only in the Nilgiri hills. And along with that, the toy train is the Darjeeling train. The Darjeeling train is also known as the toy train. Rest of the features not very important for us. There are many loops, hairpins, tunnels, bridges. All of these features I think you can easily understand. But there are 3 railway lines. One is Darjeeling, Nilgiris, along with the Shimla railway line. All of these are the mountain railways in India. So this finishes the British architectural style. Now we are going to move towards the Portuguese architectural style. When it comes to the Portuguese, they had a very different interaction with Renaissance. They were not very much influenced by Renaissance. They were more medieval in their outlook. That is the reason why their architectural features also reflected the same medieval outlook. And they were constructing their buildings in an art form which is more emotional, not Renaissance art form which was a rational. They employed a emotional art form which employed in fact 3 different techniques, which is, one is Baroque, the second one is Mannerism, and the third one is Manolian. I'm going to talk about these 3 features. Okay, see, and based on these architectural styles, what they did was they constructed majority religious buildings in India, particularly in old Goa. They have built so many churches. Sometimes it is known as Rome of the East too. Those many churches they have constructed, because their primary purpose of occupying India at that point of time was evangelization. They wanted to convert as many people in India as possible to Christianity. That is the reason why they needed enormous religious structures, and these religious structures, they were built in Baroque style. This Baroque style, it contains a gigantism of proportions. They emphasize more on the size. Then along with that, the buildings usually have huge open central space. Then along with that, on top of it, there is usage of open windows on top, which provides this effect of light, and theatrical effect is present inside the building. Then along with that, they paint the entire interiors in a style called quadrature or trampoline style. Then along with that, whatever important shrines are present within the building, they are gilded with bronze, and sculptures are also present, which are typically they sculpt angels. Then this style is an emotional style. Light and shade is used. Then usually this style doesn't have any geometrical patterns. More or less all of them have flowing curves. Okay, curvature kind of structures are typically employed here. And if you have a look at the interior of the church, okay, this is the interior of the church. See, if you have a look at, twisting pillars are present here. The bronze gilded, this entire thing is bronze gilded. Okay, light and shade, typically huge windows are also placed. Okay, this entire structure is also gilded. Usually this is the huge open central space. And this building, and of these buildings, one church is very important for us, which is the Basilica of Bom Jesus, and it is the representative of a miracle in Catholic faith. What happened is, in this Basilica of Bom Jesus, a person by the name of Franco is Xavier. His dead body, he is a priest in Catholicism, and his dead body, he did not decompose. He died nearly 400 years ago. Even today you can see the skin of this person. It did not decompose. His facial features are almost preserved as they were. So that is the reason why it is definitely not natural, right? Usually the bodies decompose very fast, but this person's body, it did not decompose. In fact, he died in China, and after that his dead body was brought to India. That is the reason why it is considered to be a miracle, okay, which shows that there is a God Okay, there is God in the world, so that is the reason why it is a major pilgrimage site for Christians. And if you go to Basilica of Bom Jesus even today, you can see this dead body of Francois Xavier. Then along with that, there are some other churches which are very important. One is the Church of Lady Rosary is one more church. I have included the names here. Then along with this Baroque style, which is an emotional style, they also included some buildings which are made in a Manneristic style. This Manneristic style is just something which goes beyond Renaissance. What they do is they exaggerate the poses of the person. They exaggerate the poses of person in order to create asymmetric effect, and they are unnaturally elegant. Then they also show artificiality in their constructions, in their buildings, because in Renaissance naturalism is glorified. So that is the reason why this style, it shows more of artificiality. Then along with that, they go beyond. There is no balance and clarity, there is asymmetry. All of these features, they use them for the sake of religion. Obviously in religion you don't have any balance, rationality, naturalism. All of these are underplayed in religion. In religion there is a scope for miracle, there is a scope for emotion. All of these features are integrated into the Portuguese architectural style. Very, very simple. If you know the background story of the religious influence, automatically you will be able to write all of these things. Then some of the Manueline elements. Manueline is maritime elements, late Gothic and early Renaissance style. This Manueline or maritime elements is sometimes they represented ship shafts, sometimes they represented telescopes in these buildings. Sometimes they also employed other things which are anchors, okay, which are related to ship. They have been employed in the building style. That is the reason why it is known as Manueline or maritime style. Not very significant for us. So three different styles: Baroque, Mannerism and Manueline style. If you write these things, then the examiner will be shocked. Okay, so definitely that information, it is sufficient. Then the examples for this is, okay, Church of Our Lady of Rosary and Church of Saint Augustine. I talked about them. Rome of the Orient, I talked about it. Orient means East, that is Asia. So all these constructions you can go and visit in Old Goa, definitely. Okay, they are very, very brilliant, and you can whenever you go to Goa, please make it a point to visit these churches. Then after this, see the exteriors also. Just I wanted to show the exteriors. Okay, most of the surfaces are curved. Okay, this kind of tracery windows are there. Okay, all of these features. This is a Manueline style building which has been constructed in the format of a ship. This represents the ship mass. Okay, so that is how they have constructed the building. Then the last one that we are going to talk about is the post-independent Indian architectural feature which has been included in UNESCO World Heritage Site. There have been some questions on Le Corbusier architecture in 2007-8 mains, but not now. I don't know like how they are going to ask this question, put forward this question. But this capital complex at Chandigarh, it has been integrated as part of World Heritage Sites along with the 17 many other buildings which have been constructed by Le Corbusier across the 17 countries in 20th century. Nearly in 17 countries he has constructed. He was a very famous architect, and he was invited by Jawaharlal Nehru in order to design the new city which is Chandigarh. The new city which is Chandigarh, and in this city what he did was he employed a very planned city model with a lot of green spaces, enormous enormous roads, and it reflected the modernity which India needed at that point of time. So that is the reason why it is a planned city. Then along with that, he has constructed some buildings which are more prominent for us, which is the Assembly, Legislative Assembly, the Secretariat Building, High Court, and open hand monuments and the Tower of Shadows. And here when it comes to this Le Corbusier, he had a simplistic design pattern, and at the same time Jawaharlal Nehru also asked Le Corbusier to build a city which does not have the shackles of the past. Okay, he does not want any elements of Indian past or European past to be employed in this building. He wanted a completely modernistic city, and for this reason Le Corbusier also designed the city in the same fashion. When it comes to the Assembly, the Secretariat, High Court, and open hand monuments along with the Tower of Shadows, all of them have been constructed in a typical Le Corbusierian style. Okay, it is a style in itself. There is no link to any of the past styles. And when it comes to this, usually what he did was he employed huge water tanks in front of the buildings. And these water tanks usually they reflect the central building. And he also always played with the light and shade. He used the natural light in order to create shades, and he integrated this into the architectural feature. See, have a look at this. Definitely, okay, light and shade, playing with light and shade is one of his main architectural feature. Then along with that, if you have a look at, most of these buildings are completely plain, and there here Le Corbusier, what he wanted to do was, he never polished the concrete which has been laid. What he did was, he left the concrete as it has been put, then he did not polish it, and he let it dry as it dries. That is the reason why these structures, they are usually typically very bare, and they have a rough outside edge. Then along with that, he also followed a style which is known as promenade style. Okay, promenade style. Okay, promenade architectural style, in which what he did was, he placed all his buildings in center of a park, and as the visitor, he moves from one section of the park to the other section, slowly one after the other buildings will open up for him. All the buildings, they are not very much visible when he is entering the park, but slowly as he enters the park, new architectural features, one by one, they open up. Once he enters the buildings, other architectural features open up. Once he goes into the central part of the building, other architectural features. Exterior, one architectural feature. Interior, one more architectural feature. In this fashion, as the mover moves from the outside to the inside, various architectural features are shown, which is known as a promenade architectural style. And raw concrete, I talked about usage of sunlight and shadow in the design. Open lakes are also made. Okay, so in this fashion, he made these buildings. Then along with that, he had this open hand monument. This open hand monument, it represented the philosophy of Le Corbusier. What is it? It is very simple. Open hand, which is ready to give and ready to take whatever it is. It shows a typical open-mindedness and large-heartedness. So that is the emblem of open hand in Chandigarh. It has been put across the city in various regions. I'll show you the open hand monument too. Okay, I have included the image here. 1 second. This is the open hand monument. Okay, open hand monument. This is the shadow of towers. All of these buildings. Okay, see, that's why when you have a look at the High Court and the Assembly building, they don't look like a High Court and Assembly building. They look like some modern architectural features, but in fact they serve the purpose of Assembly and the High Court. So this finishes the discussion on Le Corbusier's architecture in Chandigarh. Definitely it is one of the most modern cities in the world at this point of time, and it is also considered to be a very clean city too, with a lot of green spaces and environment friendly architecture. So this finishes the discussion on modern cultural sites of India. Below in the comment section, I have posted 2 questions. Please do solve them. Then subscribe to Manifest IAS for more such interesting content. This finishes the lecture. Thank you.